The boroughs are New York City. The burbs are everywhere else. Real estate is the ultimate game of risk and reward. It's the biggest investment most people ever make. Fortunes are made over a lifetime and lost in a day. And we're not playing with monopoly money. How do you stay ahead? Who's buying? Who's selling? And why? What do they know? We want the truth. You need an edge. Boroughs and Burbs is your secret weapon, giving you the insider knowledge and strategies you need to succeed in the high-stakes world of real estate. From Palm Beach to Palm Springs, Manhattan to Malibu, we press the experts to expose the pain, find the deals, and occasionally predict the future. That's Boroughs and Burbs, Thursdays, 3 o'clock Eastern, noon Pacific. Because everyone can make money in real estate.
Welcome, everybody. Boroughs and Burbs, number 208. Today, we're doing estates, trusts, and probate. And I have some very special guests. I have a big team today, but let me hit my share screen and take you through it. So we are Boroughs and Burbs. You'll find us at boroughsandburbs.com, and you'll find us on YouTube, where we get about 5,000, 6,000 views every week. I'm your co-host, John Engel. And you'll find me at Elliman in Connecticut. And you'll find me at theengelteam.com. And that's my co-host, Roberto Cabrera. Say hi, Roberto, and tell us where you are.
Hello, everybody. Hello, Johnny. All good?
Yeah. And where are you calling in from today?
I am on the Upper West Side of Manhattan, my friend, as always. And as you're going to say?
The center of the universe.
Yes.
Today, I wanted to introduce the new division. I believe it's a new division at Douglas Elliman, Estate, Trust, and Probate. And they have put together an explanation on the website. And there is a team. Where is that? Where do I find the team button? Learn more. Yeah, here we go. Here's the team. And so they've put a team together with agents in several states, Florida, New York, California. There I am in Connecticut, and leading the team is Rachelle, Rosten, and we have her on the show today. And Kelly deLaat, also in California. And we've got Peter Hernandez, president of Brokerage, California and Nevada regions, also on the show. Because I thought we needed some New York lawyerly representation, I went and called the best New York lawyer I could find, Jamie Heiberger Harrison of the J.H. Heiberger PLLC law firm in New York, and she is a repeat guest of the show. So welcome back, Jamie. Glad to have you.
Thank you so much. It's my pleasure to be here. Anytime, John.
And you as well, Rachelle, Peter, and Kelly. So glad to have you on the show. I guess we should take it from the top. About a month ago, you called me and said, would you like to join the division? And I said, wait, why do we need a division for this? And you said, oh, no, this takes a special skill. This is a major part of our business out here in California. And we think it warrants its own division. And let me tell you why. So why don't you tell Roberto and our audience why we needed a division for this?
Just to give a little backstory and color, Kelly and I have been business partners and selling real estate for about 26 years. We met in training, and separately from each other, we had each sold trust and probate sales and probably approached it like the majority of agents out there, with no specific thought to the type of deal it was. It was just a transaction. And in 2002, Bank of America came to us to list a property, and they had a really specific, rigid, structured way they sold homes at the time, right down to using their own contract, which they don't do anymore, but they did it in those days. And we had never seen anything like it. It was very eye-opening, and it gave us an idea. And we said, we could take this structure and we could apply it to other institutions, to other fiduciaries. So we broke our practice into 3 parts. We have what we call an institutional model. We have a professional fiduciary model, lawyers, business managers, CPA. And then we have what we call a friends and family model, which is, hey, my mom died and I'm selling my mom's house. And we approach each of those sales differently and in a super structured manner.
Okay. And when you said it's a major part of your business, so once you once you set this up, how did you go out and find more of this business? How did you
I mean,
market that?
I think it's from that Bank of America, transaction, we kind of decided that these sorts of transactions are sold in a particular way. And if it worked for Bank of America, it would work for Wells Fargo, it would work for other banks. So we really began targeting as our business, marketing and targeting professional fiduciaries who represent estates. So whether it be banks and institutions, trust and probate attorneys, and really what we started doing was attending meetings where estate planning meetings and that sort of thing, where that group of our targeted clients would be. And we would start talking about the fact that this is the way we position and market these kinds of properties. And the beauty of it is it works for all kinds of properties. I mean, we do residential properties, but it can be a little condo, or it can be an estate, or it can be a multifamily. And the idea is that we use kind of a specific, we have an instruction sheet. We educate the prospective buyers and prospective agents on the process, on what the seller expects during the transaction, and we get complete compliance. And we just found that it's a niche of real estate that there's not a lot of people focusing on it particularly. And specialization is everything. And knowing an area of real estate and being, a so-called expert in that area, we found to be extremely helpful. And through the years, we've honed it. And like as you said, a month ago or so, Rachelle and I always wanted to launch a division because we knew that there are people in different markets that could benefit, that could do the same thing. And, fortunately, Elliman, Peter, and all of the powers that be thought it was a great idea. And so we now have agents who have experience in this area. It's, any licensed agent can handle a trust or probate, sale. But it really is a particular language. It's a particular animal. And I think we're excited that we now have people in different markets where hopefully we can create a very, impactful referral network that will benefit all of our businesses and grow in this area.
Outside of a typical transaction, what sort of additional hats are you wearing?
So the differentiator from the very beginning is if you're going into a property, somebody is selling their own home, they can make any decision they want to make. If you're a fiduciary, you really can't. You're making decisions on behalf of the estate. So you have different legal responsibilities. So we go in when you say hat. So we're going in from the very beginning with that knowledge. And there's not one rule of thumb. Each estate is different based on the property and the players and the needs. Is there an attorney actively involved? Is there a family member actively involved? If it's a family member, we're probably going to ask a lot more questions because we want to make sure they're getting the proper legal guidance, and we're not attorneys. We're not giving them legal guidance. But if it's an attorney, if it's a bank as the seller, they have the knowledge and they're coming in, they're just saying to us, this is what we want, boom, boom, and it's a much cleaner, easier, more straightforward transaction and with a lot less emotion involved.
And we feel also that the service that we provide, so we go into a property, oftentimes it's a property that people family have lived in for decades. There's personal property. They've got their particular division that clear out the personal property. We go in, assess, see, what we think should be done in regards to preparation before we come on the market. We coordinate with vendors to get bids. At this stage of the game, we've been around for a long time. We've got quite an extensive list of vendor list of, you need this done and you need that done. And we do that as a service to our clients. We don't obviously do the work ourselves. I mean, the contract is between the seller and the vendor, but the service we provide is that, and what we tell our clients, and this is what we present in our listing appointment, is that we talk about the fact that we will be boots on the ground for you. We will get all of these things done. We'll get you 3 bids. You'll choose the bid. And for professional sellers, which is mainly what we deal with, that is a big benefit to them. They've got a million transactions going on and a million estates that they're working on. So we feel like we can kind of take a little bit of that burden off of them and, provide them with additional services that maybe other real estate agents won't do or don't know how to do.
There's a lot to unpack here. How is it different? How is the agent's role different when working with an executor versus a traditional homeowner? Recently, I had the situation where the father in his 90s, along with had set up several legal entities to own the 9 properties, his own property and the 4 multifamilies around him. And the brother and the dad couldn't really weigh in because he was well, first of, I guess the legal reason was he had already assigned power of attorney and executor to one of the 2 brothers, and the 2 brothers did not agree. And 2 brothers rarely agree. They have different needs for liquidity, and they have different time frames. And so I found, as a typical agent, a challenge because both brothers were reaching out to me, telling me what they wanted. I think it would take a special kind of an agent to say, whoa, it doesn't matter what you want and what you want. I have a fiduciary responsibility to the estate. So can you talk to me, Jamie, Rachelle, can you talk to me about the qualities in an agent and how it's different between working for an estate and working for a homeowner?
Do you want me to?
Dive
So,
in. Give me a good,
of
juicy
course.
story.
All right. So I have one right now, which is a great example. When you're dealing with, you're just talking about dealing with a seller, there's no estate. It's night and day because from a legal perspective, forget the brokerage. I'm sure there's definitely differences there too. But from a legal perspective, when you're dealing with the owner of the property, first of all, you're dealing with the title issues are generally not an issue, right? Because your owner either owns it free and clear or they have a mortgage. Those are the 2 things we're dealing with. Maybe they own it in an LLC, and so we'll need to get the organizational documents and the consent and the resolution. No problem. Now, estate issues, not only is it an issue no matter what state you're in, New York takes it to a whole other level that California does not take it to. New York is totally its own animal. A lot of states don't require what New York does. So take your client, that dies in California, owns homes in many places, but let's just say their primary was California, and now they have an asset in New York. You have to first settle the estate in California, and then you have to start an action in New York to allow you to sell a property in New York, taking your California probate papers and filing in New York. That's called an ancillary proceeding. New York is one of the few states that requires this. So it's not enough to go through the process of proving they died, your relationship, what if any taxes are due in one state. Once you sell an asset in, now you're selling in New York, you have to now prove that in New York. That's a huge difference. So it's almost, you have to go through. You can't just, if you're in an estate, you can't just transfer an asset. You have to go through the process. You don't, even if the ownership was in the estate, it's not about just proving ownership. You also now, just like if you're selling property, look, if you're selling property and you owe the federal government taxes, you can't sell the property without paying. Well, an estate, the problem is this. People die all the time and not have a will. And maybe there's heirs, maybe there's not. And estates don't get probated. Nothing happens. They die. Maybe they don't have anything. A lot of people die having nothing. They rented an apartment and they don't own assets. So that nothing's getting probated. Well, when somebody dies and they own anything, you're dealing with a probate situation. You can't sell real estate without going through an extra layer of requirements, some of which have nothing to do with the actual asset itself. It could just have to do with the assets of the decedent. And that just adds a much bigger layer. I personally would say to most people, I tell clients, brokers, don't list until you at least file for probate. And there was a will. If there was no will, you need your what are called letters of administration before you really know who has the authority to list the property. Unlike a will, if you have a will and it says, I have 3 children and my 3 children are the co-executors, you're very unlikely to have a problem.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So
How much?
So
How
much going
long
on
does
here.
that? How long does that ancillary process for New York take?
You know, my very first one I did, and it was the famous last words of a real estate broker in New York City, that this is going to be the easiest deal you've ever done. I ended up needing to do an ancillary proceeding on that case. That one, I think, took me like 5.5 months. And that was good compared to estate attorneys in New York. They'll tell you a year. I've done it though as short as like 8 weeks, 6 weeks. It really just depends. It's a couple of months, not terrible. Honestly, I do a very small part of what I do, a lot of that part of estate work, filing the papers so that we can sell, getting access to a bank account, things of that nature. Not, it's the same each time for the most part. There are much bigger estate issues that come up that would delay it a lot more, but that's not a huge deal. Complicated, estates, like you're saying, if everyone's fighting over everything, they're not going, they won't sell. But as a broker, like one of the good reasons, and one of the reasons why it's a great area, that I'm sure that Kelly and Rachel talk to their attorneys all the time, because working together in it, this way they can say to you, this is what you're going to have to contend with. This is when you can start showing. This is when you can list. This is when we think you'll be able to close. And the other thing is this, just like in selling non-estate properties, estate properties have ways to get things closed that take creativity also. Like, and you can have the biggest battle going on with families from all over the country, and you can still manage to sell. Because if all everyone cares about is that no one gets the money right now, then it may not be that difficult to get everyone to agree to sell and let the money sit in escrow. Because an asset's going to cost money to run. You're going to be paying your taxes. God only knows. It depends what it is, right? So if somebody could turn around and say, hey, like Rachel, oh, I was speaking to my attorney. Don't worry, just because we're all fighting, we can come up with ways here. An attorney could come in and make a motion to the court just because one person wants to and make that suggestion. And the next thing you know, everyone's talking. So
we were literally in overbid court one time, and a caregiver showed up and said, I have a claim to this property. And we thought, oh, okay, this is going to be a problem. We're not going to go to court and sell the house today. And actually, we went to court, we sold the property, the judge impounded the proceeds. And 12 years later, those proceeds are still impounded. The family's still fighting. The 36 beneficiaries are still fighting.
What is overbid court?
So in California, if you have trust sales, which are not involved in probate, and then you have probate, and there's 2 parts to the process. You have, Jamie, you just touched on this, you have full authority or limited authority. If you have limited authority on a sale, you're completely governed by California probate code. And to actually sell a house, you're selling it in 2 parts, or a building, a structure, any building. The first is you put the property on the market, and you're notifying everybody that it is subject to overbid court, and you have an I'm trying to give you the abbreviated version because I could talk for an hour on this, but you accept an offer, the offer goes to court, and then the first minimum overbid in court is 5% plus $500 over the accepted offer. And then people can show up in court, and the judge sets the increments. It could be 10,000, it could be 100,000, and they'll say, okay, for $50,000 more, will somebody bid? And yes, you come forward and bid, and it's an auction. It's an auction-like environment.
The idea is that the court has to confirm the sale. So they will confirm that you go to court for them to confirm the sale. And then if there are overbidders present that still want the property, and they're professional buyers that go down to probate court because they're looking to get some deals. And sometimes you can get a deal and sometimes you can't. But it's kind of an auction sort of situation that happens in court. The judge asks, is there anybody here to overbid? And then that procedure goes on. Once they have an offer that they're willing to accept, the court confirms that offer, and then that property can close escrow.
But who determines that it actually goes to that court?
Whose decision?
Yeah, like at what stage, you're about to close, and then someone says, hey, hang on a second, we should take
We
this.
know it from the beginning.
From the beginning.
Yeah, we know it from the
very
beginning because that's the difference between full authority. There's full authority when the beneficiaries have kind of agreed, or they're not contesting or protesting the sale. So they've all, let's say, agreed that one of the siblings will be the administrator of the estate. And in that case, there's still a notice of proposed action that goes out to all of the beneficiaries once an offer has been accepted on the property. So there is a 15-day period where somebody could step forward and contest it. They can contest it on any grounds. And if they do that, it then converts to the court process. If they don't, it closes like a normal sale would close. With limited authority, that from the very beginning requires the court process. So we always say it's probably going to be 30 days to get an offer, 45 days to get a court date, and then another 30 days. So it is a prolonged process, which a lot of buyers come in saying, like, how long is this going to take? And, there's a perception for buyers, I think, on the market that probate sales are going to go cheap, that they're in poor condition. And it really often is not the case. I mean, it can be, but it's often not the case because even if a lower offer is accepted initially, there is the potential to go to court and overbid. And as Rachelle said, the first overbid price is 5% plus 500. That's something we post in our MLS. We post the date, the court, the address of the court, and then people show up to court to get the court confirmation of the sale. So we do know that up front, whether it's limited or full authority.
And buyers know that up front, and they're either willing to go along with the process or they're not. I mean, again, we have no control over it. It's governed by probate code.
Not that it happens all the time, but there must be some crazy stories of things that happen there.
Oh, yes. For sure. I mean, it's a crazy process because sometimes people, I mean, we always, we've got our way that we do it. So we show up to court and we have a clipboard and we put a red piece of paper with the property address. And we tell everyone, because we've marketed the property for the last, 30 or so days. And people call us and say, has there been an accepted offer? Yes, we have an accepted offer. The court date is such and such. Come see us. We'll be the one standing there with a red piece of paper. Because, there's a lot of things going on in probate court on any given day. And so we'll say, meet us right then and there. And we'll talk about, what the next steps are. It's an intimidating process to go to court. I mean, it's an odd, it's an odd thing. And of course, we have a funny story that we tell. One of the first times we were ever in probate court, Rachelle and I are there and we're all dressed up and it's all very intimidating. And we're sitting in court and there's a big, table with the judge and you feel like you've committed some sort of crime, and they call you up. And they called us up and I went up to represent our seller. And as I was walking up, my Pandora on my phone went off and it started playing music. And I was so nervous, I couldn't turn it off. So I saw Rachelle sitting at the back row of the courtroom and I chucked my phone and luckily she caught it and got out of there. But you feel like it's such a nerve-wracking process. And I think even the overbidders come up like shaking in their boots, like, Your Honor, I'd like to bid. And, but the process is the process and they confirm it and it goes quickly. So you have to be like, you know, ready to bid, and they don't give you much time to think about what your next bid is. So we tell people that are showing up in court, be prepared, know what your final bid is, and what if it goes over that, you're out. And if you're willing to keep bidding, you do. And it's an exciting process. I mean, it's kind of fun in its own way, but you know, some buyers like it and some buyers want nothing to do with it.
But let's just say I go to court, I make my bid, it's accepted. How quickly do I have to perform? What do I have to put down? How can you qualify me? What do you like?
So you have to show up in court with cashier's checks for 10% of the value. And that's one of the things when you get in front of the judge. And when we say, please come find us, we want to see those cashier's checks and make sure you have them in hand. And one of the first questions the judge will ask is everybody up here qualified? And the idea is you're handing over 10%. And if you don't perform, you're going to lose that 10%. The probate contracts typically say an escrow is going to close 10 days after the court confirms the sale, after you receive confirmation, which is 15 to 20 days after probate court. If somebody is getting a loan and they need a little bit more time, a lot of sellers will work with it. But again, it's normally about 15 to 20 days after court. You have to be ready to go.
But when you show up in court, it's supposed to be non-contingent.
Yeah, there's no contingent.
Yeah, you can't have contingencies on now we're going to do inspections of the property, or now we're going to,
But what if the co-op board, which is Roberto's problem, Jamie's problem, what if the co-op board says, no, not approved, not approving this buyer? That's a big problem.
Doesn't happen here.
See, in California, we don't have very many co-op properties, buildings. I mean, there are very few. There are really very few. I know in New York, it's a different cup of tea.
Jamie, that would never happen here, right?
Well, it's just, it's funny because the way that we're talking about it here, you're talking about situations that the court, though, is controlling the sale.
Yes.
Right? You're only talking about, because you guys also, I'm sure, sell individual buildings or homes that were coming out of an estate too, or is it only that?
Most of what we do is trust and estate over probate, because most people put their properties, if they have valuable properties, into a trust to avoid this whole probate process.
Right.
And you're saying that in New York, even if it's in a trust or estate, you have to still go before the probate court?
No, you don't. That's what I'm saying. Right. Yeah. So if you have a property in trust, like if anything that's in trust takes it out of probate. And most people, I recommend anybody, whether you're high net worth or you're just owning an asset. If you own an asset, there's no reason not to have a trust. It's just easier. And you know what, right? And what New York has now, I don't know if California does. New York finally has deed on death transfers. So now, if Roberto, you own a property, or your parent owns a property, and you never want to, you don't want to obviously transfer the asset prior to death, especially if there's going to be a gain, because you're then going to transfer it. And if it's a parent, a grandparent, you're taking the market value at the time of death to bring it up. Whereas if they transfer it to you when they're alive, you're owning it at their cost basis. So that's why we wait. Now we have the ability in New York, which went into effect this year, where grandma or grandpa could actually file a deed now. And that deed is called a deed on death transfer deed. That's what the deed is.
That's interesting. Yeah.
And that's a really cool, that is probably one of the best things I've seen happen in New York in the world of trusts and estates, because really think about all the headaches you're saving. Maybe it's a third marriage, and maybe this, that, and you don't want to deal with, you didn't do the prenup, you didn't do the postnup. Well, guess what? You could solve a problem like that. You can have it, and not deal with the annoyances that come along with,
Makes the conditions very clear. You can't dispute that. They signed the document. That's great.
Yep.
Challenge it.
But it's interesting though, because so you're only talking about assets. You're saying when you're in court, you're only talking about assets that are being
probate.
Only
yeah.
probate.
Have a trust.
Those only apply to probates. I mean, and the majority The majority, oh yeah, that's true. On occasion, there's a trust sale that for whatever reason requires court confirmation. It's rare. The majority of the business we do are trust sales. So it's a bank trustee, somebody as trustee, a fiduciary of an estate selling and
And
has
for
full
some reason,
authority
they
to
had to
sell.
go into the court.
Right.
And for some, it could be. So you probably end up in a lot of divorce situations. No?
Yeah, I mean, divorced families fighting. I mean, we're sadly in the middle of a lot of disputes. And one of the things is we're not talking on purpose to a lot of the beneficiaries because they're not our clients, and that's always an interesting thing when, when people call and they ask questions and how is the sale going and what does it look like, and we can't talk to them. We can only talk to the client, and that's a very delicate
Wait, you
issue.
can't talk to them at all, or you can't
we,
provide
we
them advice?
we can't provide them advice. We can't provide them information, anything above and beyond what we're telling the general public, because the beneficiaries are not our client. And we don't know always the family dynamic and who's fighting with who and who's fishing for information. So we do have to be very careful talking to family members.
Especially, yeah, yeah. Peter, what are the key qualities an agent needs to be a successful estate and trust transaction? It occurs to me that you have 1,000 agents working under you, and they have a great range of skills. They're not all equally cut out for these questions of jurisdiction and authority. They're not all prone to communicating in writing to the, so what kind of qualities do I need? I joined this business because it was creative and I'm a relationship guy. Am I cut out for trust and estates?
Maybe, and maybe not, because you definitely need to be good at relationships. But this was interesting because, Rachelle and Kelly brought this concept of having this type of a division to the Western region. And Bill and I said this is a great idea. And it turned out to be a phenomenal success. And the reason is that as you listen to Jamie and Rachelle and Kelly talk about this, you start hearing kind of nuances and language and process that's much different than a traditional sale. So an agent could be a really amazing real estate agent, but yet have no idea what happens in one of these types of sales. Now, for people like Jamie and fiduciaries and people that are, executors running these trusts and doing these things, they don't want to teach realtors the business. They don't have time. They're too busy. They're on the clock. Their clients don't want them paying to teach realtors how to do this. So having a division that, allows, people like Jamie to work with agents that understand the nuance of the language makes her job much easier. It makes the transactions go much more smoothly, and it benefits the clients tremendously because not only do they understand the process, but they also understand how to get top price or how to get the property for a buyer or things like that, because they know the product, understand, they know how to work within it, and they know how to leverage it. So all that being said, so then we decide, they say, well, we should take this nationally. And so Bill and I go, great idea. So we pitch it to Michael Leibowitz and we pitch it, around, and we found out that there was a huge appetite for agents to participate in this. I mean, much more so than our ranch and farm division, much more so than our sports and entertainment division. I don't think any division ever launched that I've been a part of has received so much attention, so much excitement, and have so many people want to join. We currently have, I think, 150 more applications to review, and we've barely marketed this. And the truth is, maybe 10% of those agents are going to qualify. Maybe 15%, but not more than 10 or 15%. So that's a hard conversation.
And what are you
Well,
looking for?
we're looking for transactional experience. We're looking for educational experience. We're even looking for accreditation from boards and MLSs and things like that. Like different states have different accreditations you can get. And we're looking, basically, we want to know that people have done these and have done them several times and they know what they're doing. It's like anything else. And so the division being a niche, we want to present agents to the Jamies of the world that are really, truly qualified so that they have a really, really good experience. And interestingly, John, I believe that we're the only national brand that actually has this division. So it gives us a really, really unique opportunity to specialize in it and to do a lot of business in this. And what excites me about it, it's the grading tsunami that's coming, like what Jamie said, people die. It's true. It's happening every day.
Right.
So, I mean, there's going to be a wave of business, I think, in this arena. So I don't think the timing for Elliman could have been any better. And so, hats off to both Rachelle and Kelly for encouraging us to do this, because I think it was a great idea. And I actually think it's probably the most important division we have. I think it's very significant. I shouldn't say that. I mean, obviously, ranch and farms are super specialized, and I think being able to deal with entertainment and people is very, very difficult, and you have to be really careful when you're dealing with people at that level. All that being said, the trust and probate and the state division is extremely valuable to a firm.
I will give a plug to Jamie. Jamie is one of their biggest educators for all of us New York brokers, and she's amazing. She's very generous with her time.
I know Jamie. Jamie's amazing.
It's funny. Yes, Peter, it's very nice to see you. And, it's funny that you're saying how it's the most popular, Peter, because interestingly enough, I was doing a sort of a CE, but not really. It was a townhouse, and it wasn't a Douglas Elliman agent that was her listing, but I offered to do I'll bring POA forms. I will tell you right now at this class for free, you will understand what you need as you, because I'm in my late 50s, and it's like people where I am, it's your kids are older, they're adults now, but do you have your POAs for them? What is it that you should have in your back pocket? And I got to tell you, true story. And I'm only saying this because it's just a broker that we all know and a top broker that never goes to stuff like this. Lauren Musk came because she was so interested and she really had questions because she was dealing with some things that were very at home, type of thing or whatever it is. And I do think, and you know what? Top brokers from every company. We had 45 people there. I was shocked. I didn't know that it was going to be like this. People don't go to things after work like that normally. And yeah, it was catered from somebody that one of the companies did, but not it was pretty insane. So to your point and to your credit, so Kelly and Rachel, you really, yes, you nailed it on that one, I think, because I do think there's a lot of interest. And I think that you can get top people that do know it. Like you're saying, you guys are saying there's only going to be so many qualified people.
But we're also giving them a pathway to get there too. So even if we denied them to the division, we will say do these following things and resubmit, and you'll get in. So we offer that pathway. But one of the things that was really interesting is we launched this division around the country. There was managers in the firm and agents in the firm that didn't even know why it was necessary. It was really interesting. So there's a lack of understanding too to the nuance of it. Like they were saying, "Oh, you don't need that in New York," and I'm going, "No, I think New York, you actually need it more than anywhere." You know what I mean? And so we were like kind of surprised. I mean, really astute people. They said, "Well, we have attorneys for that," and we're like, "Yeah, we know you have attorneys for that, but the attorneys have to work with you, and you don't know what you're doing." And so it was a very interesting conversation, and sometimes too, they just want to be part of it because they're smarter. They're really terrific at it, but they can't because they've never done a deal in it, and they don't know. And so, wow. I mean, it's opened up I think what we have to really do, Rachelle and Kelly, is offer some educational and some, we had a success rally in Newport Beach, and they did a quick synopsis of the business, and it was really well done. I loved how you guys went back and forth. They were scripted, they were rehearsed, they kind of took us from A to Z at a very high level. And I think agents came away, wow, I really don't know what I'm doing when it comes to this, yet I want to learn more and I want to know more. And so that's kind of stuff we have to do more of, I think.
The more I hear, the more intimidated I am about how specialized this is. Not only
how did you get in the division anyways, John?
I don't know anymore, because as I read about Florida and how much I don't know about homestead exemptions and out-of-state heirs that Jamie was talking about, and vacation properties and multi-states, and how every state handles this differently, it occurs to me that my Florida agent might not be the best at helping me in New York or in California, but to have a division where representatives in each of those states are talking to each other I'm amazed that you're saying this is the only firm that has a
It is.
national strategy for solving this, given the fact that we all know that the ultra wealthy now have multiple homes, two, three, four,
Yeah.
five homes in multiple jurisdictions.
I mean, that was the whole thing about the division going nationally, is that we thought the same, that we've got like say our bank clients, they've got offices in New York, they've got offices in Boston. And if we could parlay our clients and be able to refer people within the division that do this in other markets, I mean, and vice versa. I mean, hopefully the intention is that this will become a very dynamic referral, way of making referrals to people, that that I've got somebody in Florida and they will be in great hands. It will be like what we do for you here in Beverly Hills, they'll be doing for you in different markets. And that's where I think it's exciting. And I think like unlimited potential. I really think that it could really grow in such a big way. And as Peter said, I mean, we were shocked with how many people applied. I mean, we were overwhelmed with the response from it. But
Yeah.
it's a market proof. I mean, death and taxes. I mean, people are dying, and we always say we don't chase ambulances, we chase hearses. But but
And
it's
it's interesting because like we had one agent that wanted to claim Bank of America for themselves, and I'm going like, no, you don't understand. Bank of America is way too big for you. Like 10 agents could have 10 different contacts at Bank of America, and there's like millions of clients within Bank of America. So there's a lot of fun stuff we have to work through. A lot of misconceptions. I mean, wouldn't we all love to have every deal ever coming out of Bank of America? We wouldn't need to do anything else, would we? That'd be enough. But so we're going to have to teach a lot, learn a lot together. This is brand new, really. It's really exciting.
It is
Any
exciting.
horror stories about what happens when we get this wrong?
I mean, yeah, I mean, Jamie, you can probably talk about it more than we
There's
can.
there's so many. I mean, there really are. There's so many because it doesn't take that much to, screw up the process. I mean, right now I have a deal where I don't even know. I think we're a couple of years in, and now all of a sudden somebody else shows up in surrogate's court and they now want to challenge the appointment of the administrator.
Mhm.
And that comes like a year and a half into it. And then you're going through an actual litigation of it, of who's going to get appointed. So there's so many things that can get in the way. Look, all you need to get in the way is, tax issues, foreign status sometimes. That becomes a real nightmare. I had a situation very recently. In fact, I'm in contract right now. And it's Douglas Elliman. Yeah, it's a Douglas Elliman deal. It was Douglas Elliman Property Management. And thank God, like was able, I honestly don't know if I could have gotten this to happen with any other company, because most of the companies, it's very hard. You have management companies and you're really just dealing with, these are the rules, and that's what it is. And with good reason, right? You're managing thousands and thousands of units. You can't possibly have different rules for the same thing. You have to have consistency. And this particular situation, my client, the law in New York changed in I think it was 94 or 96, I don't remember, where two people that are married, one of them dies in New York, and after I think 96, it automatically was deemed tenants by the entirety. Tenants by the entirety is a designation that only applies to married persons. So what it means is that if A and B are married and A dies, under New York law, you don't have to go through probate. B already owns it, period. However, if a property was purchased prior to the change in law, arguably, it wasn't tenants by the entirety. And then you have to go through probate. So I'm in contract right now. My client lives in Argentina, maybe. I don't remember. She's in Latin America for sure. Never lived here. Owns in Trump on 62nd Street. And the husband and her bought it before the change in law. He's dead. She lives overseas. We're never getting probate documents from Argentina or wherever it is. It just doesn't happen. So I said, look, and all Douglas Elliman wants to do is they want the management company, rather the co-op, I should say, they want her to sell. So here you are. They weren't going to let us without going through probate. We finally got them to agree, like, no, we can do this. So
So
just lots of nuances.
I don't even
Jamie,
think
can
we
we- can
have
we
that
talk-
tendency, do we, Rochelle, in California? I've never even heard of that.
Me either.
And
Tenants in
Jamie,
common, is that our tenants in common? Is tenants in entirety? Maybe it's the same thing but different language.
No, tenants by the entirety is just husband and wife, or
Oh, okay.
or wife and wife, or husband. Any marriage in New York that's a lawful marriage qualifies for tenants by the entirety.
All right, see, there you go.
So, Jamie, can we talk a little bit about New York just for a moment? So you can buy in the form of a trust, you can buy in the form of an LLC when you buy a condo for the most part. Co-ops in which you're buying shares in a property and it's not real property, buying shares in a corporation. They've been very resistant to buying in trusts and LLCs. LLCs I kind of understand to a certain degree, and they've always been resistant because they can't get to the person in case something happens. However, it's now becoming more and more common just for estate planning purposes. A lot of co-ops are starting to allow more trust. And even there's a very expensive property that's on Fifth Avenue, and literally in the property description, it says trust and LLC ownership is permitted as well. Like they're even advertising it because they want to kind of level the playing field with all these condos that they're competing with. But if a person is willing to do a personal guarantee on the trust, what's the fear for the co-op?
Well, from a co-op perspective, there's two things. First of all, co-ops will only allow revocable trusts, meaning also known as a living trust. And basically, a living trust has no tax benefit, but it has the benefit of allowing the estate to avoid probate. Whereas an irrevocable trust and some other charitable remainder trusts, other trusts have a tax purpose. A revocable trust has no tax purpose, but the good news is you still get the step up in basis when somebody passes inheriting then market value. An irrevocable trust, co-ops don't allow, because an irrevocable trust by its nature, you can't change it. You can't control it. And a co-op can't have somebody be an owner that doesn't ultimately have control. They allow revocable. And the reason why they don't have to worry is, like you said, they can get the personal guarantee on it. They'll generally require an occupancy agreement that says the co-op is being purchased as the primary residence or peditaire of whoever it is. And basically, when that person passes, even if it's a trust, somebody else doesn't get to move in. They would have to be approved. You don't just get to leave it to somebody. It becomes the same scenario as if a mother or father owns a co-op and they want to leave it to their kid, they can do that all they want, but it doesn't mean the kid's going to be able to live there. They have to get approved. A spouse, not necessarily, depending upon the rules, and so, the fear is that you need to make sure that you have a person to hold accountable to, a person to comply. And so on a revocable trust, they could very easily carve that out in an agreement that somebody could sign at the time of closing.
Rachelle, it occurs to me that in this specialty, most people start with a lawyer relationship before they start with an agent relationship, that they're working with a lawyer, they've already established trusts, and that you're basically, the lawyer has a great deal of influence over which agent they pick. Is that the case? Are we finding that that's a major difference between how agents are hired?
that's absolutely the case. We do a lot of interviews with lawyers. And it might be, oh, my mom died, I'm selling my mom's house, but the attorney wants to talk to you, or it might be that the attorney is our direct client. We have a property we're launching today in Pasadena, and the attorney is the fiduciary. And we've worked with him on many other properties over the years.
So that's a major difference in how you'd market yourself. You have to work not only with the Bank of Americas out there, but the attorneys, and you have to make sure that you're well known for having a facility experience with this.
There's
That's
Jamie
really
isn't
who
going to
we
hire
market
me
to.
if she doesn't think, if she thinks she has to teach me.
Yeah, I mean, we go in to appointments with whatever level of fiduciary, and we say, this is our specialty, this is our focus. We understand your language, we understand your space, we know what your needs are. And as Peter mentioned, you don't have to teach us. We already know, we understand what you want from us. And for the people who've used us, we've proven that up time after time. And for those who don't, I think they figure out very, very quickly that we really do understand. We hear that all the time. We're like, oh, you really do know what we need and can speak to us about it.
Are you getting more multi-state clients where they say, thank you, so, you know, I also have, I need help in New York?
So we are, and that was partially what prompted this division. We really feel strongly that we want to be able to say to you, like Kelly said, we have us in another state. We can put you with somebody who's going to be equally as knowledgeable and equally as diligent. And we want people to think of this group as a go-to national resource.
Jamie, you finding the same thing? Are you finding people
I think
multi-states?
100%. I feel that for the most part, of course, at a certain price point, maybe, but I have so many clients and family offices that they have properties in California, New York, Florida, and out east. And so I have so many clients. I have clients, in Florida, as you probably all know, the attorneys aren't doing the closings. So I probably handle 5 to 10 deals a year, and I'm not even admitted in Florida because I have clients that they don't care. Their lawyer in Florida is not doing it either, and they'd rather me deal with it than somebody they don't know out there. So I end up doing deals in Florida, reviewing contracts in Florida. And the connection is just, I think it's 100%. Like, I have attorneys in Florida and California. And, look, I happen to be in the Hamptons right now. Even out here, I closed on a property, and I used, if the count where it is here, I just wanted I don't like doing my own deals, even though I do this for other people all the time. I think that it's also very situational, right? Like, you want to make sure that that you have the right information and they're up to date on the information, and that they're going to know, okay, New York now has deed on death, because now you can go and you can share that with your clients that might be in California, and they're not dealing with an estate issue, but you know that they have properties. So now you can, I can send you a link to that law. You could send a letter to all of your clients, and you can say, just wanted to let you know, if you hadn't yet heard, that New York recently enacted deed on death transfers. I could send you a copy of the link. You could send it off to people, because now that's enabling you to give them a reason to, develop some sort of a relationship with New York that you don't even have with New York through them, because you're not dealing with their New York properties. But now, doing that might get you as the in on a New York property that's not anywhere near being sold yet, because it's not an estate.
Wow. I think with the, what do they call it, $72 trillion wealth transfer from the greatest generation, and now the baby boomers down to the millennials, I think we're going to see more and more of this. To your point, I think we're going to see multi-state complexity more and more. And I think the time is now to start developing this as a specialty skill. So I have to say, Rachelle, Kelly, Peter, great idea. I'm so glad you're taking this nationally and learning in this past hour how little I know. What I thought I knew. Well, you know what? I got a lot to learn. I'm so glad we did this hour, and now I'm going to be more encouraged than ever to dig into the complexities and nuances of this specialty division, and make it a specialty. So thank you for this opportunity to talk about it, learn about it. Did you learn anything today, Roberto?
A lot. Jeez. I know that they're going to need to find someone else for Connecticut. That's for sure.
So true. I'm like, wow, how much I don't know about this, and I better learn if I'm
You're a
going to
sharp
keep up.
guy. I have no worries about you.
We're excited.
I'm just a relationship guy, Roberto. I'm just,
Peter, I think that your next division. Sorry,
Yeah.
I think I froze out there. Your next division that you guys do, if you don't already have it, I'm telling you, there's a divorce family structure, that is huge because just like the estate issues, it's a big deal because when you're dealing with the divorce issues, right? Just like that, there's multiple parties.
That's interesting. And we would have death and divorce. There you go, the two Ds.
And very connected, by the way.
Very connected.
This has been a phenomenal show. Thank you so much. I'm going to go
Yeah, a
through
lot
the
of good
screens
information.
again. You're
Yep.
going to find this at boroughsandburbs.com in the next, well, I guess on Thursday at 3 o'clock. This will drop. And I'm John Engel. You'll find me at theengelteam.com, and I handle Connecticut, although, as Roberto says, maybe not that well. That's Roberto Cabrera. You'll find him at robertocabrera.com. And we've got, this is the new Elliman Trust and Estates and Probate Division, and you can find an agent in your state on this page. Thank you, Rachelle, co-leader of the division, along with Kelly deLaat, the Rachelle, Rosten, Kelly deLaat team. Thank you, Peter Hernandez, for your insights on putting together the division and taking it national. And thank you so much, Jamie, for agreeing to join us at the last minute because, wow, your insights on how it changes from state to state were invaluable. So thank you so much. This has been
so much.
tremendous. Maybe one of my favorite information-packed episodes ever. What do you say, Roberto? Best ever?
Sure.
I
No,
think
for
so.
sure. I mean, this is just scratching the surface, I can tell.
Yeah, we're gonna have to do part 2.
I won't be in my car next time if you ever need me. This was just where I was at this time. Sorry.
Next
I
time
think
she'll
that
be at
says
a
a lot
closing.
about you, that you are always available, and that you know what, when somebody calls, you're there and you're ready.
I'm
People
just going to
gotta
say it.
Preparation
I'm just going
whatsoever.
to say it. Jamie is cool.
Thanks,
She's
Peter.
so cool.
Thank you so much. Well, it's great seeing you all, and listen, I wouldn't necessarily have been available for everybody, John, but it's an honor. And you mentioned Peter, and of course I know Roberto, and it's great meeting you guys, Kelly, and so thank you so much, all of you, and I appreciate it.
It works at any New York restaurant too. I drop Roberto's name and boom, they respond. Thank you all.
Kick him right out the door.
All right.
You got it.
All right. Take care. All right. Bye.